Buckeye being bought out, new GM for tourism in Grand Bahama, and National Youth and Sports Month begins.
This is Flipping Grand Bahama News for the week ending November 8th. I am Yasmin Popescu with these and other stories. Thank you for joining us. The month started off with the completion of the sale of Buckeye Partners LP by entities affiliated with IFM, adding one of the largest diversified networks of integrated midstream assets to IFM's substantial investments in energy infrastructure across North America. According to the announcement, Buckeye's assets include 6,000 miles of pipeline with over 100 delivery locations and 115 liquid petroleum products terminal with aggregate tank capacity of over 118 million barrels and a network of marine terminals located primarily in the East and Gulf Coast region of the United States, as well as in the Caribbean. The acquisition is aligned with IFM's focus on investing in high-quality, essential infrastructure assets that underpin the economies in which they operate. Buckeye represents a natural extension of IFM's experts in investing in, operating, and growing essential midstream energy infrastructure in North America, said Jamie Kem, Executive Director for IFM. Buckeye is a great company with a rich history, and we look forward to steering the team and company through the next phase of the U.S. and global energy evolution. Oil tops the news again as we look at the present state of the Equinor in East Grand Bahama. Before Hurricane Dorian hit the island, everyone knew the oil facilities as Statoil, but after it seemed to have changed its name. Actually, according to news sources, the name change by the Norwegian company was done to reflect its shift toward cleaner energy. This was done since March of last year. In its third quarter report, the company had shown a comparative loss after taxes, which they mainly attributed to more cautious price assumptions. These were explained by Eldar Sater, President and CEO of Equinor ASA, as financial results impacted by lower prices and deferral of gas production to capture higher value. Also, higher activity level with 5 new projects on stream since second quarter. Strong progress in building industrial scale within renewable energy. Cleanup operation at South Riding Point in the Bahamas following Hurricane Dorian. Introduction of a USD $5 billion share buyback program over 3 years. Introduction of a USD $5 billion share buyback program over 3 years. He noted that the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian, Equinor has mobilized significant resources to safeguard people and the environment and to clean up the spills at and around South Riding Point terminal in the Bahamas. However, he said, we maintain strong cost and capital discipline, but our results are impacted by lower commodity prices in the quarter. In addition, we have decided to use our flexibility to deter gas production to periods with higher expected prices. Based on our strong balance sheet and outlook for profitable growth, we have in this quarter demonstrated our commitment to capital distribution and are executing the first tranche of a $5 billion share buyback program. The Bahamas Ministry of Tourism and Aviation announced the appointment of Steve Johnson as General Manager of Tourism on Grand Bahama Island this past Friday. The statement said that Mr. Johnson is a veteran sales and marketing professional with over 23 years' experience in the tourism and hospitality sector and brings a wealth of knowledge in public relations, event planning, marketing, and advertising to his new post. He joins Grand Bahama team from Canada, where he serves at the Bahamas Tourism Office as Senior Manager for Business Development. Since 1986, Johnson has served the Bahamas Ministry of Tourism in various capacities in Grand Bahama, New York, and in Canada. Accolades for motivational counselor in Grand Bahama, Miss Raquel Hart, who was recently selected by the U.S. Department of State Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs to participate in the International Visitor Leadership Program, Technical Entrepreneurship and Empowerment of Women and Girls, a one-of-its-kind program. In a statement, she says her focus will be to engage in dialogue on social, economic, and political factors that influence women to become entrepreneurs. She is also set to speak to the Rotary Club in Helena, Montana, visit the Office of Global Women's Issues, Office of Youth Issues, and Bureau of Economic and Business Affairs in Washington, D.C., and attend at the United Nations in New York City the Women's Entrepreneurial Day Summit. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back. GirlCon was held this past Wednesday. The third annual GirlCon, a one-day conference designed especially for 12th grade girls on leadership, was held this past Wednesday on board Carnival Cruise Lines with headline speaker Christine Duffy, president of Carnival Cruise Lines. Explaining the role of GirlCon was its founder, Senator Kay Smith.
Women see it every day in all areas of our lives. It's important to prepare these young girls for what they can expect as they experience the world and all its challenges. That's why hearing firsthand from celebrated women and having access to mentors, we feel gives these young ladies an outlet, hope to overcome, and strength to succeed. We support the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, particularly goal number 5, which is gender equality. As outlined by the UN, gender equality is not a fundamental human right, but a necessary foundation for a peaceful, prosperous, and sustainable world. Our girls must know and recognize these rights. They must know that challenges exist, but it's up to all of us in this room to spend the time preparing our girls for what is next.
Duffy then said,
and I was recognized by my school, and I had not been there in decades. And it just reminded me of how important it is that we engage with this next generation of men and women to make sure that we share our lessons learned, to inspire, and to see all of you fly.
Other speakers were leading women in Grand Bahama, Alisa Strella in artwork, Cara Gallagher, President and CEO of CL&H Services Limited, Freeport and Nassau, and Glenette Fowler, President and CEO of Falco Limited. On to Rotary News. As said in our last report, the Disaster Response Committee of the Rotary Clubs of Grand Bahama were out east again, but this time in Freetown to deliver construction materials for the people of that area. They were joined by the Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, and Member of Parliament for that area, Honorable K. Peter Turnquest, who is also a Rotarian.
And we are very, very much grateful for this very, very generous donation to the people of this area. Rotary has been doing a fantastic job here on Grand Bahama, as you all know, ever since the immediate days after the storm, providing emergency food and clothing relief, and now we're transitioning to this building phase, building materials phase. As I said in our town meeting the other day, the government itself cannot do this all by itself. This is a massive undertaking. And so when organizations like District 699 and Rotary Clubs in Grand Bahama come to offer this kind of assistance, this is immeasurable. We cannot put a value on this, even in terms of the cost of materials, because we know without it, it would take a very much extended period of time for people to be able to get the materials and to get back into their homes as possible.
This crew held the district governor, Ray Williams.
District 6990 includes the island of Grand Bahama. We have 5 Rotary clubs, we have 2 Rotaract clubs, and we have Interact clubs over here. So they're an integral part of our district, which also covers the Florida Keys, Miami-Dade, and Broward County, Fort Lauderdale area. And the U.S. mainland. And so we feel very close. We do a lot of things together. And when you all got hit so hard here, it just was natural that we had to take it and be a part of helping you come through this.
We now take another break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. In national news, Governor of the Central Bank, John A. Rowe, held a press conference last Monday to give the monthly report in which he said economic activity came to a halt in Abaco and Grand Bahama during September 2019 as a result of Hurricane Dorian. He said neither island recorded any tourism activity given the complete shutdown of the infrastructure and that the rest of the Bahamas was not entirely spared, as these regions experienced either visitor declines or much reduced arrival gains for both hotels and vacation rental properties. However, he stated the timing of the storm during the slower part of the tourism season allowed the Bahamas to preserve strong tourism performances over the first 9 months of the year. This momentum, he said, is sufficiently strong that the central bank expects the Bahamas will stand record positive growth in 2019, underpinned by tourism, but much lower than had the storm not occurred. In addition, foreign investment stimulus is expected to be sustained with inflows targeting expansion in resort and cruise infrastructure in New Providence, Grand Bahama, and several family islands. In the region, ending poverty in all its forms everywhere is the goal of sustainable development for the United Nations Capital Development Fund. The statement said, to this end, recently published UNCDF said globally more than 800 million people are still living on less than $1.15 a day, lacking access to adequate food, clean drinking water, health, education, and sanitation. The statement noted that while the number of people living in extreme poverty dropped by more than half between 1990 and 2015, too many are still struggling for the most basic needs. The goal also aims to ensure social protection for the poor and vulnerable, increase access to basic services, and support people harmed by climate-related extreme events and other economic, social, and environmental shocks and disasters. UNCDF's primary contributions, according to the statement, are to SDG 1, with a focus on reaching the last mile and addressing exclusion and the inadequacies of access, with a focus on unlocking public and private finance for the poor at the local level. By strengthening how finance works for poor people at the household, small enterprise, and local infrastructure levels, UNCDF contributes to SD1 on eradicating poverty, identifying those market segments where innovative finance models can have transformational impact in helping to reach the last mile and address exclusion and inequalities of access, making finance work for the poor in the world's least developed countries. In sporting news, Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture, Lanisha Rowe, announced the launch of National Sports Month at the ministry's head office. Among those joining her from her ministry were David Cates, Permanent Secretary, Undersecretaries Renee Bullard, Acting, and Montez Williams, Director of Sports Timothy Munnings, and Chief Sports and Recreation Officer Aurea Knowles. The month is slated to include events such as National Sports Hall of Fame induction and ceremony, the National Sports Awards, health and wellness initiatives, the reopening of the South Beach Swimming Complex, and the launch of Swim Bahamas, a national Learn to Swim program. And that's all for this week. For Flipping Grand Bahama News, I'm Yasmin Popescu. We look forward to seeing you next week.